It's absolute pandemonium in the world of Magic the Gathering today. Wizards of the Coast has announced that they will not replace damaged serialized cards. On top of that, we've got some very strange sales numbers floating around for 30th anniversary and the possibility of more waves of the product coming. And if that wasn't enough, Magic players are raging out about Magic the Gathering stealing Sorcery's artwork?
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The Magic Historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends! I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for another installment of Mega Magic News. And this one is so fat and juicy that I refuse to take any time to comb this hair. I'm gonna stay as wild as magic is. So let's dive right in. The first subject that I want to talk about is the 30th anniversary sales number situation, because this is an interesting and odd duck. Some of you may have seen this floating around already. Some of you may not be familiar, but there's information being sent around saying that Wizards of the Coast has sold this many boxes of the 30th collectors in this location. We've got this much in Europe. We've got this much in North America. These are all the different sales numbers, right? So you add them all up and then they projected what the amount of how many product was supposed to be sold overall, something like that. And it was like, they were saying roughly there's about 50,000 boxes and that 14% of them were sold. So people are running around holding this up as a massive win, going, look, Wizards of the Coast didn't manage to sell this, right? Like, they only sold 14%. They pulled it down so that Hasbro wouldn't be embarrassed and the shareholders wouldn't run away, because honestly, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro specifically did state that this 30th anniversary was going to be a big deal, and Magic the Gathering is a big product for the company. So it's understandable why people would be looking at this failure of the product and going, hooray, this is good news for us. We're not going to see more stuff like this. But the story is a little crazier than that. First of all, I want to add in some extra information that I have received via email from a surprisingly large YouTuber. So I got an anonymous email. They're not anonymous, but I'm keeping them anonymous. I got an email from a massive YouTuber who said that Wizards of the Coast reached out to them to be part of this promotional campaign. And more interestingly, that when Wizards of the Coast reached out to them, they didn't say, hey, we want your video to come out on this particular day. So you know how this stuff went on sale on the 28th? It wasn't, we want your video to come out on the 28th, right? They were given a time frame. If you don't know, if you've never dealt with anything in terms of like advertising and making your own videos and stuff, usually when you get contacted, you will be given a date. Almost every time a company has contacted me and said, hey, can we sponsor you or whatever, or get you to do a full-on video? We're looking to do it for or on or around, and they usually have like an exact day. Sometimes it's a couple of days. But yeah, that's what was given in this case, was a range of time. So that says that Wizards of the Coast originally, like, why would they have you advertise this product in advance, right? Not in advance, after the product, I should say, has sold. If it's sold in advance, why would you advertise it afterwards? And if you're going to offer like a big YouTuber payment or whatever it is specifically to advertise this stuff, why are you going to pay that out and then have it advertised afterwards, right? So basically what we're looking at is a situation of, even if this sales data is true, right? Let's say the stuff we're looking at is right and they've only sold 14%. That could be because there's going to be more waves. Now, I want to put a little asterisk up there. Right now, this is just like anonymous level email stuff. So take it with a grain of salt. You can say I got a tinfoil hat on because I can't absolutely prove anything. Speaking of absolute proof though, I want to talk about the numbers, because the numbers that we're seeing, there's no basis for them as far as I can understand. When I looked it over, I'm like, okay, they have the data from North America, you've got the like EU, all this here, and you're saying you've sold all these, but why is like, where's the APAC, right? We literally saw that in Singapore, they were selling these on, I don't remember what the name of the website was, but that was the thing that got really confusing. When Wizards of the Coast said they weren't being sold anymore, and at the exact same time, they're on another website over for Singapore, and that's through a specific Wizards account. So it's what's going on is incredibly murky, but this information that's coming out also looks incredibly murky because all I've seen is a screen cap of something where it doesn't even have the name of the person who's saying it. There's nothing to corroborate the data. It literally just says, yo, I'm going to tell all you guys before you find out tomorrow. And it's like, find out tomorrow? What do you mean find out tomorrow? Wizards of the Coast isn't going to announce their sales numbers. So that right there, you've got the fact that they don't have the data for all the different areas, but are saying they have the grand total. The fact that there's no actual evidence provided whatsoever really makes me super skeptical. I mean, I was super skeptical about the Godzilla stuff too. That turned out to be right. But in this case, for me, at this point, I can't look at that as anything other than somebody's just making up some numbers, and because the community wants 30th anniversary to be the biggest debacle, I mean, let's be real, it is. It's been a massive failure on multiple levels. When you have this many of your player base going, I actively want this product to fail, you know you've made a huge misstep, right? So I totally get that everybody's like, rabble against it, and I don't like it either. But I don't see those numbers and go, well, okay, that makes sense to me, because it's missing crucial things like the actual data to, like, where did you get this data from? So for me, people saying this is like, that's cool, I don't buy it, right? If more comes out, I will let you guys know. If it gets confirmed or I just missed something, I will update you on that subject, all right? The next thing that I want to talk about are the serialized cards. So Wizards of the Coast has stated through their customer service with somebody actually trying to get a replacement for serialized cards. Multiple people have tried, actually. And what happens is they get a response back saying, due to the nature of the card, I'm going to paraphrase, due to the nature of the card, they won't be issuing a replacement. The only thing that they're willing to offer is a non-serialized version foil of the same card. So if you had like a serialized worm coil engine, then they would give you a foil worm coil engine, which really isn't the same thing at all, right? Because these serialized cards, there's only 500 of each of them, making them into a super special item. Now, there's a couple of different ways to look at this. You can go, man, it sucks that Wizards of the Coast won't issue a proper serialized replacement, right? It is. On one hand, that sucks. You can also look at it and go, well, on the other hand, it's good that they want to maintain essentially the fact that there's only ever one of these printed. So we only made 500 of these. We never printed an additional, right? You can say, well, they stuck with that. There are only 500. You can also counter that by going, well, what if they just printed an extra copy of that one? Like, you send in the original, they destroy it, you create another one, right? But Wizards of the Coast has clearly decided to err on the side of, we don't want anybody to think there's two copies of any of these cards in existence and undermine the value of these serialized cards before, let's be real, before they do it a million times and drive the value of it into the ground. Because the serialized thing is going to continue on along down the road. Now, I've heard that what sports card companies do is, let's say you have a super limited edition card that gets messed up. You can actually give it to them, and they won't give you the same one, right? But they will give you a different limited edition rare card. So, okay, you lose this serialized card, but we're going to give you another one. I've also heard it can take years to get them, so I don't know how good that system is. But my problem with this isn't that Wizards of the Coast is saying we're not going to reissue these cards or like give a good replacement. My real issue is the fact that Wizards of the Coast has the nerve to make 500 serialized editions of cards, but not bother to print them to a good standard. The number of poorly printed, damaged, misprint serialized cards is staggering. I'm part of a misprint group where people trade in the highest, like the most crazy misprints, the most damaged of cards, like factory damaged, not like you drove over it with your truck, right? So you see all kinds of crazy stuff flow through. And the serialized cards started going through at such a crazy clip that you could see everyone saying, what's going on here? It's getting to the point where, are the regular ones actually going to be considered the misprints because they're all messed up? So if Wizards of the Coast wants to play the game of, we're only going to print one and you can't get a replacement, they absolutely have to improve the quality of the cards. It's completely unacceptable to go, we're creating these ultra chase rares and we won't replace them if there's a problem with it. That would be fine if it was like, well, you know, 1 out of 1,000 or 1 out of 10,000. But to me, and I mean, this is just a gut feeling, but to me, it feels like 1 out of every 4 or 1 out of every 3 serialized cards is actually messed up. Now that perception may be kind of overblown by the fact that we're online and a lot of people who just get the regular ones might not be posting it online, and the ones who get the messed up ones are more likely to post it online, and I'm in part of a group where that shows up more frequently. So I do have to accept that maybe my perspective is skewed and I'm viewing it as a higher percentage, but it has it's genuinely a problem. There are way more of these than there should be, even if I'm overblowing the numbers, and it's not an acceptable situation to find yourself in. And so Wizards of the Coast has built up so much bad will over the last couple months specifically, but over the last year or two. Really, 2022 was the year of let's crank the bad will. Like, let's just get it going, man. Crank the bad the bad will windmill. Just get it spinning. They got the bad times winds blowing. So we lead into the next situation where you have, I don't know if you guys have heard about it, the Frank Frazetta secret lair. This is an interesting situation where a bunch of people are angry for the wrong reason, but there's another reason you could actually be upset at Wizards for it if you wanted to be. So here's the deal. Frank Frazetta is an artist who's responsible for doing old school fantasy style artwork. And we're talking like idealized human forms and stuff like that, where you have like your big beefy guys who have been spending all their time pumping iron and lifting like lead-filled chickens and whatever it takes to get them gigantor arms that are as thick as my head. That's crazy. How do you live life when your arms are stuck out at the side, bro? You can't even touch your own back. That's crazy. But the strength, I guess it's worth the trade-off, right? Because I don't need to touch my back. I can just punch somebody and make them get it off my back. Anyways, getting off to the side here. He makes that style artwork with the hot ladies too. And what's going on? Wizards of the Coast has a secret lair based on that artwork. We talked about the Dark Ritual in the last video. So there is another card game called Sorcery, and it is a Kickstarter only game, I think, right now. I don't really know much about the game. I've heard a bunch of people say, yo, I'm getting into this is cool, but I know nothing about the gameplay. I presume, like most card games, it's probably some variation of Magic. They all feel like that. It's pretty hard to find one that doesn't feel, because I mean there's only so many things you can do with the game mechanics, but regardless, what it plays like isn't the point. This is a new burgeoning card game that is trying to exist, and it has the exact same artwork. It has Frank Frazetta artwork. So there are people who mistakenly believe that Wizards of the Coast has stolen the artwork that Sorcery was going to, like Sorcery has for their cards. Basically Wizards of the Coast just went to this small company and took their artwork. Now, can you blame people for thinking that? Because you might think, yo, man, that's pretty ridiculous. Why would anybody think that? But understand, 30th anniversary showed us. I believe it was it Quentin Hoover's estate? There was at least one artist's estate where the Wizards of the Coast didn't get the rights to use the artwork and use the artwork anyways. So there's artwork in 30th anniversary that, as far as I understand, Wizards of the Coast doesn't even have the legal rights to use. So they just used it without permission. So is it really unreasonable for somebody to think, hey, they just took Sorcery stuff because Sorcery is a small card game and there's nothing they can do. Wizards has this big legal team, and if you try and do anything, Wizards will be like, psh, get out of here. But that's not what's going on. The case is this. Frank Frazetta's estate licenses the artwork to Sorcery and Magic the Gathering. But I'm pretty sure they licensed it to Sorcery first. So while Wizards of the Coast definitely didn't steal Sorcery's artwork, they are trying to eat their lunch. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this secret lair was just announced as a, yo, look at the artwork that Sorcery is doing. Hey, what if we just muddy the waters by putting the same artwork on our cards? So people who are going to buy Sorcery because it has that artwork will now just buy from us anyways. That's one possibility. It's also possible that Wizards of the Coast has so many tentacles out just trying to do as many secret layers as humanly possible that they didn't know, and Frank Frazetta's estate has just been going around offering this stuff up for sale. The same way that like Bob Ross's estate has been more monetizing of the stuff as we've been going along, right? You've seen a bigger push. Let's get everything Bob Ross on this and that and whatever. I saw tons of different Bob Ross games in the like game stores and stuff, and then Wizards came out with the secret layers. So it could be one or the other. It could be nefarious maneuvering, or it could just be Wizards will take any secret lair they think will sell. And I mean, I haven't looked at Sorcery yet, but hopefully Sorcery actually will use all of the kind of Frank Frazetta artwork, because Wizards of the Coast isn't going to give us any of them hot ladies, right? Wizards of the Coast ain't for that right now. So they'll give us the dudes and the necromancers and stuff, but we're not going to get the other stuff. So you know what? Maybe I'm going to go take a peek at that sorcery game and see what it's all about. So either way, in this case, being angry at Wizards for stealing the artwork is inaccurate, but if Wizards of the Coast did just as a corporate move get the artwork to try and host Sorcery, that is a rough maneuver. And if you like Sorcery and want to be angry at them for that, it's not like I can blame you, right? Wizards of the Coast, really, again, not doing much to build that goodwill. But if you need a break from all the bad times, friends, you want some good times, I'm doing 31 days of magical fun on my other YouTube channel, Hatcher. We already have day 3, and day 4 is Magical Meatball Day. So you're not gonna want to miss that. So yeah, if you want to shake this all off like a duck, just shaking off them feathers and get into some good magic times, check it out. Link up on the screen. Thanks to my patrons for supporting what I do, and I will see you all, my friends, for the next video.